Today I wanted to make kind of like a last minute ditch on movie going because I've been hearing a lot about this movie and I'm hearing reviews saying that, hey, it's a great movie, you should watch it. People have been talking about it a lot. And in a way, yeah, because unfortunately, I usually give myself, once every year to watch a movie that is basically gonna be a contender for Oscar nominations. Because most of the time, I think that a lot of those Oscar nominated films are kind of pretentious in a way. All the time are usually dramas, romances. Rarely cartoons they get into the category of best pictures, I would say. But nevertheless, I didn't watch lots of movies that are highly acclaimed that I wanted to watch. One of them kind of being The Lighthouse, or the other one being Here Comes the Neighborhood with Mr. Rogers. I eagerly wanted to watch that, but certain conditions didn't let me, do it. So for at least before the end of the year, I decided to go to a movie theater that is kind of pretty far away because it's technically the only movie theater that was showing the today's subject, which is none other than 1917, the latest World War I movie, directed by what was the name of the guy? Sam Mendes. Before I talk about the movie, I gotta say that it's incredible how many years it has been since the first two World Wars, and apparently there's kind of like an abundance of movies that set on either of these kind of wars. It's almost like the stories are pouring relentlessly, so much that I was thinking that how long this is gonna last, how long this is gonna keep up. I'm not complaining, but it's kind of mesmerizing how certain events of history kind of gives out enough material for cinematographers to come up with either basic or really interesting pieces of cinema. And 1917 is no exception. I gotta say, guys, right on the get-go, I can't believe that the movie that I picked, the highly acclaimed movie that I decided to pick up, and also the last movie of the year that I'm gonna watch, it did come out being probably it skyrocketed to become the best movie I have seen this year. This year has a little bit kind of has its up and downs, in which I will talk about it in another video. But this time, man, this month it has been a little bit too much of movies. I had kind of like 4 bad movies in a row. Then I had The Spice in Disguise, which I thought it was okay. But now we got 1917, which I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love this movie. I really, really like it. So it is from this point that okay, to make it quick, it's the summary. Basically, 1917 is indeed the story of 2 soldiers who are given a mission in order to save 16,000 soldiers from a sneaky operation that the Germans gave. So they have, since they don't have good communication and all this stuff, they have to go trespassing no man's land and deliver the message themselves. Especially since one of the soldiers that are supposed to get that was gonna do that ambush. It's one of those who's gonna be a supposed victim is none other than the brother of one of our main characters. And that's a simple summary enough about the story. And the whole movie is a one-shot cinematography, very similar to Birdman. And during this whole movie, it captures a lot of the surroundings, the atmosphere, all the things that these soldiers seen during the World War I. And it's kind of amazing how in cinematography, the more they create movies like that, or the more passionate they are, it kind of doesn't shy away to put every single detail of all these things that these kind of wars brought out. In this case, World War I. But basically, and yeah, if you get too much into the movie, it's really, really intense. It gets you thrilled, and even if you only get very little about our main characters, very little background on them, you kind of feel like it doesn't matter because you're sharing technically an experience. And this is kind of something when you think about it, because a lot of soldiers who died or kind of survived these kind of wars, most of them kind of we don't barely know about them. We barely know about even sometimes their names or sometimes their experience, because it's not exactly equal when you just hear about it, when you experience it. And I'm glad that this movie kind of tried out like many other movies. So when I think about it, also the story is technically similar to Saving Private Ryan, but you know what? I think I like this movie better than Saving Private Ryan. Man, how at this point, I want to say that I want to shut up and tell you to watch the movie before coming back. So at this point, I'm not gonna say anything before I continue. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes. So So from here on, stop watching this video, and I'll continue on after you watch the movie. Are we done? There. So, yeah. What else I can say about this movie? Like I said, it reflects a lot about what the cinematography and the environment does reflect a lot of these things that this war has. For example, you see decayed horses, decayed bodies. There's even one part in which you see kind of like a face buried on land. And the trail is not exactly, easy because even you're gonna feel that there's danger around every corner, and even abandoned places feels like there is a threat, there is danger around it, and so you're always kind of questioning, okay, when the next thing is gonna show up, or you know that this is the kind of movie in which everything can go wrong. Things can go from bad to worse. It does. And I'm also the movie also gains my respect because there are some shots that it treats itself kind of like a horror movie. Basically, there is kind of like a moment where there's hellfire. We have characters, that they only have to rely on the little lights that there is from flares or fire, and sometimes you see, people in the distance and you don't know if it's friendly or not. So it's kind of begin to hard not to how can I say, trust anyone. In which even the trust issues is it kind of comes up a little bit tumbling, which it leads me to talk about the main actors. Mainly, the main actors are played by Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay, and the two of them are really good in their craft. In which one of them is, of course, the no-nonsense guy who is pretty down to earth and he wants to do the job, and the other one who technically is very emotional and decides to rush things mostly because his brother is in danger and he feels that he has to do the mission as quick as possible. And yeah, this is technically a race against time before things get bad to worse. Like I said, they have to bring the message for the superior in order to send that message to the other superior to stop them from ambushing the Germans, since they are plotting an ambush. And in a way, that's motive enough to keep you, feeling that you're having that thrill and your emotion with the characters. Sometimes, they talk, they joke around a little bit, especially one of them, which I'm not gonna exactly say what it is, and of course that you might, at this point you probably might have seen the movie, in which, of course, one of them gets killed off, and then the rest of the movie follows one other guy, the other main character, which it seems makes it a little bit, heart-wrenching, knowing that you start out the journey with an ally, but then, of course, things get, very hectic when you're alone and with no one to trust, right? And man, that it feels it. I gotta say that it feels it. Also, I want to say that, yeah, the cinematography works, the elements works, the soundtrack is beautiful. I don't want to sound a little bit mean-spirited, but looking at all the elements, you know what it kind of reminded me? This year, I finally binge-watched the whole series of Rowan Atkinson's Blackadder. Anyone who's seen this series knows the 4th season, in which it takes place in World War I. And I do remember that watching the infamous finale of Blackadder, I remember that it brought me tears in my eyes. It brought me a lot of sadness. And seeing how it is, and how faithful the elements of Blackadder was compared also to this 1917. I don't know, it came to my mind this. Well, at this point I will say that there is less to talk about this movie except that, oh yeah, I remember. Again, I already told you that this movie is cinematographically in one shot. During the whole movie, you just follow, the sequence of events, without any cuts. You just follow, the whole trail, the whole adventure, the whole quest, and it works well. Since it worked well for Bergman, why not in this one? Usually, these kind of movies makes me really wonder how they managed to cut, because you're gonna doubt that they're gonna change scenery, for long stretches of kilometers and all this stuff. It has to do something. They have to do something which it kind of makes me interested about it. But I will say that there is a moment about this one shot that is actually, I think it is they made a 2-shot. Basically, there's a moment in which it cheats. I'm gonna let you see the movie, and then I want you to pinpoint where they cheat that one shot filming. Well, I can't say anything, but it's interesting. This movie broke a lot of interest on me. I'm really glad that I watched it. I absolutely, even a lot more than probably the other contender for Oscars, which I'm talking about Joker. This one shows again, like I've said many times, a cliche, simple premise doesn't mean that it's gonna be a bad movie. You just have to do it good enough, and this one proves it. Especially considering that it is technically a subject that has been told in many movies and many media. Like again, World War I. How many times have been hearing lots of stories about it, and somehow Hollywood comes with an abundance of ways to tell the story. This really shows the importance of keeping the past, to showcase, at least in artistic views, the elements, the sacrifices, the ordeals that these people had to do in these kind of events. I know that in movies it's not exactly 100% accurate sometimes, because we have our artistic liberties, but at least we're glad that we have some kind of media to at least try to give us some kind of empathy to our fallen soldiers from these periods where people had no choice but to battle, and even going through basically a quest that could save a lot of people, but only for a moment, which pretty much leaves out in this case kind of like a bittersweet ending, I'll say. Not much I have to say. 1917. The only thing I could do is to salute for all these men.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah!